The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to ARC's NDC Webinar Partner Series. This is our second one with Amadeus, Exchanges, Refunds, Voids within the Amadeus Travel Platform. I'm Judy Howard, the Manager of Customer Experience and Training here at ARC, and hosting this session will be Paige Blunt. She's our Senior Manager of Direct Connect and One Order. And before I turn it over to Paige, I'm just going to go over a few housekeeping items here. This is an interactive session. We want you to participate. We want you to be engaged. This is for you, and it's your opportunity to ask our guest presenters any questions you may have. You can ask those by going to the right-hand side of your screen, typing those in the control panel, and those will be addressed periodically throughout this session. The other thing I just want to make sure, because we get this question in the webinars all the time, if this is going to be recorded, and yes, it is. So we will be sending it out to all the attendees and registrants after that, but it will also be available on our arccorp.website under on-demand webinars, and also on the NDC section of the arccorp.com website. So anyway, before anything else, if anyone has questions, again, type them in. But Paige, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce our presenters and kick this off.
Great. Thank you so much, Judy. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our second series with Amadeus today. I think we had a great project last time where we learned a little bit, but this is going to be much more extensive and more detailed. With us today, Cassie Kilcarr, as you know, she is our expert here on Direct Connect. She will be leading ARC side of the presentation. And then we have Alexandra and Jay, who are from Amadeus, and they are very well known within their organization as being experts in their areas of the NDC connection capabilities. So if we could move to the next slide, please. We're going to be talking again about the NDC flow in the US market, but I wanted to talk a little bit about what we learned last time. If you can go ahead and move, thank you. With this one, the first one was really all about talking through the Amadeus Travel Platform and talking about what its capabilities are, how it differs a little bit from the GDS presentation into the Travelport NDC platform. We talked a little bit more about why standardization is so important within the NDC infrastructure, so that different airlines can offer their capabilities and their different ancillaries and all of those, rich content items that people want to be able to see. And then we had a lot of Q&A about how the flow of information passes through from the actual Travelport platform to the airline, the Amadeus platform through to the airline, and then through the aggregation tools. So please let me know if there's anything in the question and answer. I'm seeing something about hearing, and I think what we need to do is to check your settings. And Judy, is there any other thing we should talk about with the audio for the moment for people who might not be able to hear?
And if possible, Judy, maybe we could add to the chat some written instructions for how to maybe adjust audio if it's very low for certain folks. That way they can follow those instructions along and have that in writing as well.
Okay, thank you, Cassie. Well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I want to be sure everybody can hear. But anyway, so we had a great webinar last time, and I'm hopeful that this one's going to be even more in depth. It's going to really hopefully answer some of the questions you have. So I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Alexandra.
Thanks, Paige. I'll just kind of, before we go to Alex, I'll talk a bit about our agenda today. Alex is going to walk us through the legacy distribution flow for ARC. So we'll see kind of where we've been the last 40 years or so. She's then going to give an overview of these principles within the new NDC environment. We'll then go into details on how this flow works in NDC in the US market with ARC. We then have some videos to show what several processes look like from an agent perspective in our agent desktop called Amadeus Selling Platform Connect. We'll show how to void an NDC order, how to do a refund with penalty. We'll show how to do an exchange with add, collect, and penalty, and then an exchange where there's residual value. And then we'll talk about useful links. We'll turn it back over to ARC for a bit, and then we'll answer questions. But feel free to submit questions via chat along the way. All right, at this point, let me turn it over to Alex so she can walk us through the end-to-end distribution flow and then what to expect in NDC.
Thank you, Jay. So indeed, starting with the flow, I'm just trying to, okay, with my mouth. Let's do that. So reminder of the end-to-end legacy flow for you to understand what happens today and what's the different picture with NDC. So everything starts with you as a travel agent. And when you want to issue a ticket, so whatever it's a ticket, an EMD, you target the GDS. So you will see it's a quite technical flow. Hopefully you will have clarification, you will digest it. Don't hesitate to ask any question because we're here for that. We know that it's something that you need to understand and to digest. So when you issue the document, the GDS at that stage perform all the different checks. Whenever it's a transaction in credit card, the GDS is triggering the authorization to the card company, and then prepare everything relative to the document, sending it to the airline. So it's really the issuance message, the TKT rec, that reached the ETS of the airline. And the airline performs as well some checks, replies back with the response of that message. And on your side, you'll see, okay, e-ticket, everything went well. After that, the GDS is preparing a message that is dedicated to the mid and back office. So in Amadeus, it's called the back office AAR. And at the end of the day, the GDS is compiling, so gathering all the transactions that have been issued by all the travel agents of the US market into a reporting file that is called a SPERF, so System Provider Reporting File, to ARC. So there is a specificity in the US market because you have two different files, one that is gathering the transaction themselves, meaning the TKTT, so e-ticket, EMDs, and refund transaction, and a separate one for the void, actually. And you will see afterward why it's become important. Okay. After that, ARC is finalizing the flow, so receiving the different reporting file from the different GDSs. So I mentioned Amadeus here, but there are others as well, and load this file into their application, so IAR tool. And yes, sorry. At that stage, when it's loaded, the travel agents has the capability to connect on IAR and to perform modifications on the transaction that have been loaded. After that, ARC, so through the IAR tool, performs the update into their other, let's say, system. So all transactions that have been updated goes back to ARC. And finally, after that, ARC is producing a CAT file, so it's a carrier accounting tape file dedicated to each airline, as well providing agent reports. So I will just pause here to see if there is any question regarding that complex flow, if something needs to be clarified at that stage.
Thanks, Alex. I don't have any questions so far. Thank you, though.
Good. So this is really how the system behaves today in the legacy. Now, when we talk about NDC, with NDC, you have new, let's say, principles, and you will hear different verbiage. For instance, with the NDC actors, you will hear about seller, and the seller is the travel agency in the legacy flow. Okay. You will also hear about the aggregator. Aggregator is the GDS in the legacy flow, presenting you all the different NDC content as in the legacy. the last actor is the ORA, so Offer Responsible Airline, which is the provider, so the airline in the legacy. And actually, what changes with NDC is that in legacy, all the different actions, meaning the construction of the content, the pricing, the issuance, are really done by the GDS and triggered by the GDS. But with NDC, all those actions shift from the GDS to the airline, so the ORA, airline responsible of building the offer and handling the order. Okay, so with NDC, the airline is in charge of creating the offer with the proper, for instance, commission associated to the seller, to create the corresponding order, to trigger any authorization for a credit card transaction, to issue the document, to report all the transaction to ARC. And this is exactly what I will detail in this slide, meaning we still start with the travel agent that connects to the Amadeus Travel Platform, so with the aggregator hat, to perform shopping, pricing, booking, payment, or change action. And what happens behind the scene is the travel platform is connected through NDC messages to this provider, so this airline that has developed as well a OMS, so offer management system. And through the different messages at the time of, for instance, paying the order, the airline performs all the checks that I've mentioned and issues the document within their system. Okay. Now, we have seen last time, let's say, difficulty from travel agent standpoint to identify what's possible to do in terms, especially of servicing, through the travel platform. So it's true that this information is available on our service, Amadeus Service Hub, and for each airline, you can really know exactly what kind of capability the airline support when it's integrated through the travel platform. Okay. Following that flow, after the, let's say, the completion of the order or the completion of a servicing action, there is still from the travel platform a message that is sent to the mid and back office of the travel agent. And you can see here that the reporting is not made anymore by the GDS, but is really shifting to, and the responsibility is on the airline side. So the airline is supposed to generate both spur file gathering TKTT EMD refund that has been issued by their own, and another spur for the void transaction, and deliver them to ARC. For the rest of the flow, there is something as well that you need to correlate to have the full picture. And the information is displayed and is available on the ARC Direct Connect website. So for instance, I took the example on which we made the prime booking flow last time. Okay, so it was on Qatar. And on the ARC Direct Connect website, you can see that for the NDC implementation of that airline, this airline chose to deliver a spur file to ARC, and this different type of transactions, so sales, void, refund, and exchange, are gathered into those reporting files. Okay. Rest of the flow, ARC is still loading the spur file received by the carrier to their IAR tool. And it's slightly different from the legacy. The NDC airline has the capability to allow travel agency or to allow different types of modification through IAR. And here again, this information can also be available, is available, sorry, through the ARC Direct Connect website. In this section, what the airline allows the travel agent to do for an NDC transaction on IAR. Okay, For the rest of the flow, after the modification have been made by travel agency, if allowed, there is updates of those transactions back to ARC in order for ARC to generate the file for the airline dedicated to their revenue accounting and also to generate reports to travel agents. So this is how it really works with NDC. Here again, I will pause just to ask if there is any question.
There are a couple. I think one, they're a little more specific to different kinds of questions than this exactly. But let me ask, let me look at one, please. If you can, please clarify if you can do an exchange for an exchange in NDC, or you cannot do an exchange for a non-NDC for NDC transaction within. So I think the question here is, do you have to only exchange, can you exchange GDS for NDC or NDC for GDS? And is that a possibility, I think is the question.
Maybe we should address that from, so this is an airline by airline decision. It's a commercial decision as well as a technical capability decision of their IT provider in airline IT. You've just seen an announcement that American will now support taking an EDIFACT stored credit and using it as form of payment for a new NDC booking. Other airlines may allow the same process. What is not allowed currently by any airline is to use an NDC booking and credit as payment for EDIFACT. So the reverse, not allowed at all, but to change EDIFACT to NDC, American has said that they now will allow that, and other airlines might, but that is not, it's not a rule that every airline can or will support exchanging EDIFACT for NDC. Anything to add, Alex?
Yeah, I can as well add that it's normally contrary to the NDC principle, meaning that you created the order from the NDC channel with the NDC messages. If a carrier allows through a certain service provider to change something in the legacy by the travel agent, it means that you completely lose the let's say the synchronous data with the order of NDC. So it's not synchronous anymore, and you lose data. So that's why it's really contrary to the NDC concept.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Next is about the void window that you mentioned. Is there, are airlines doing this, is the 24-hour void window still available for voids and commission and documentation correction, or is that all standardized by the airline as well? And I think that the answer here is that yes, the airline makes these decisions when they implement their NDC process. And so you need to be understanding the fare rules of a particular fare. You need to understand what the airline is allowing, because every airline does things differently in this space. And that is their right and capability with this product. Anything further?
Yeah, my only comment would be that it's imperative in NDC that you understand the rules and the functionality that are supported by each airline, because they can each choose to implement different functionalities around exchange processes. So exchange of an exchange, multi-destination search, those can be different. And I'll show you at the end where we keep that information for you to see on an airline by airline basis on our service hub. But also ticketing time limits, void windows, those can be by airline. So you need to make sure you understand that, that it can be unique to each airline.
Perfect, thank you. And somebody else asked about where can they see these rules? Is it in the, what we're calling the GUI kind of product? Where do you see that, or will you be showing us that later?
Is it, Alex, is the best place for them to look in the fare rules that are?
I didn't catch the question, sorry.
They're looking, someone asking about, where do we see these fare rules specifically when you're not in the cryptic mode? Everybody understands how that all works, but where in this aggregator NDC world do we see the rules?
So it's true that, yeah, through the NDC messages, the airline, once building the offer, give all the fare rules, all the fare details, and it's really depending on the aggregator and the interface that this aggregator provides to travel agents that you are capable to see different information. From the travel platform, and we see that last time, yes, you have a dedicated panel in graphics showing all the different fare rules and fare details.
Thank you. Okay. I think that we can move forward for the moment. Please go ahead.
Sure.
Okay, it's over to me to show what this looks like. So I'm going to show first here an example of a void. This is the agent desktop, Amadeus Selling Platform Connect. And the environment for NDC is graphic, but the PNR can still be displayed in cryptic, our command page. So here you'll see that the agent has retrieved a PNR, and you'll notice right away we have a yellow highlight at the top saying this PNR contains NDC flights. So there are cryptic commands that aren't allowed. You cannot modify, make changes to NDC content in the command page, but of course you can see the full PNR. And you'll also see there's a little purple NDC icon at the top, another reminder, and if you look to the right of the segments, you'll also see NDC. So it should be very clear to the agent that these are NDC segments. And so to void, we need to flip from command page over to graphical. So you can click the show in graphic. Now this is being retrieved in graphic. I go down to the segments, and if I click cancel, we're going to send the cancel command to the airline. The airline will determine whether this is in the void window or outside of the void window. In this case, we were in the void window. So the message that comes from the system says, okay, you want to cancel? This is a void. Airline has said this is a void because you're in the void window. So you see cancellation type is void. If you hit void now, you get the message, the confirmation that, yep, this NDC order was voided. So now that you see it's disappeared from the graphical view, and if we switch back to the PNR view, you'll see that those segments are gone. So we started with NDC order that was placed and already issued. We can see it in command page. We can easily ask to cancel it. The airline will say, yep, you're in the void window, and you just void it, and the PNR is now updated appropriately. And then let me turn it over to Cassie to provide a little commentary from ARC's perspective.
Sure. So we are looking here, and we are going to go through a few screenshots here in the next few slides of IAR. Many of you will be familiar with this. I'll talk a little bit to what we're seeing in the screenshot, but then at the end, if necessary, we would like to pull up a kind of a live demo of our UAT environment, test environment for IAR, so that if you have any specific questions, we can hopefully answer those in some more detail for you. So here you can see the void, just like you'd expect, that status V down in the bottom. So that's the ticket that was just issued. Next. And then, of course, you click into that. So the financial details, you can see that status is voided. You can see that void ESAC. And then another note, obviously, we get this question a lot, is how can I differentiate my transactions from GDS to NDC? So in the top right-hand corner, you can see that airline direct box is checked. So that is indicating that this is an NDC transaction. Great. Back to you, Jay.
Great,
All right,
thank you.
fantastic.
Jay, can I interrupt just a minute? We had a question about a little bit about the void, or at least that's the opportunity here. Someone said they tried to cancel a non-refundable ticket and leave it open, but there's no option to keep it open except to refund a non-refundable ticket. Any comment on that part?
I believe that that is an airline by airline decision about what functionalities they want to support. In NDC, there isn't the concept of some of the same concepts in EDIFACT don't exist. So in Amadeus, with the travel platform, you certainly can make an order, but then you don't have to pay for it up until ticketing time limit. But you can't hold seats, let's say. You can't hold space on the aircraft. That does not exist in NDC. Alex, I don't know if you have any further comment on that.
No, it's correct. And it really, as you said, it really depends on what the airlines support, because it's true that still comparing the legacy flow and what the travel agent were capable to perform, knowing when within the void window, knowing that it's a refundable fare. Now everything is really under the responsibility of the airline. So the travel agent asks for a cancel, for a change, but it's really the airline within their system that defines, yes, it corresponds to a void. No, it's really out of what I support and it will be only a refund, or I don't support the feature as well. So yeah, I know that things are changing and it's, let's say, you have less power for trying to do whatever you want, and everything is handled by the airline. This is the change here.
Yep.
Perfect. So there is no way to cancel a ticket basically in today's world. You can't, in the GDS, you can cancel a ticket, leave the credit open until you're going to reuse it. And you can't do that in the NDC world. That's correct? At least if the airline, it's all up to the airline.
It is up to airline rule, yeah, but how they want to handle it. I'm going to show you an example later where we're going to do an exchange, but there is no stored credit allowed by the airline, so that any fare difference is just lost. But I'll show that, and ARC will show how that appears on the IAR as well.
Great, thank you. Let's go
Let me
ahead.
show now a refund with penalty. So in this case, we are going to, once again, retrieve the PNR. In this case, we return everybody with that name. We're already in graphic. So we're seeing now the graphic representation of the flight. If we hit cancel this time, remember that I said that when you ask to cancel a ticket, the airline makes a determination of whether you're in the void window or out. In this case, when we hit cancel, which is exactly what we did last time, we were outside of the void window. So in this case, the airline is coming back and saying, okay, this is outside the void window, this is now a refund. And so the message that comes back says, cancellation type, no, it's not a void, it's a refund. There's a penalty and there's a total refund for all passengers. And then you get a breakdown of the fare, the taxes, the penalty, the tax refund, and the total refund amount. And then the agent would simply say, okay, I want to go ahead and refund now. And once again, once you click refund now, you get the message back confirming that the order was refunded. And then you'll see that the PNR or the booking file is now refreshed and that is gone. So these are two different scenarios, the exact same process for the agent. You simply say, I want to cancel this. We communicate with the airline. They determine if it's inside the void window or not. If it is, previous example I showed you, hey, this is voided, and the PNR is updated. In this case, this is now a refund. Here are the details around it, and the PNR is updated. And once again, I'll turn it over to Cassie so she can talk through what we see in IAR.
Just have to come off mute first. Okay, great. So you can see here in the list screen, the original tickets there on the top, and then the refund. So we've got the ticket and the conjunction, and then the refund and its associated conjunction. So that shows that RF you'd expect. Next. Great. And then again, you can see here, this is basic functionality in IAR. So this is a typical refund. You can see a little further down on the screen below the ESAC, you can see that airline direct indicator that we talked about in the last screenshot as well. So that is checked just to further inform you that yes, that original ticket was NDC and this refund is as well. But everything else, you can see the fare, taxes, total, full refund amount, and the admin penalty as well. Just like you would in a GDS transaction. These all matched up to what Jay just showed us. So that will show in your sales report. Great.
All right,
okay,
great.
There are a few questions. Is there the ability to reverse a refund once you've identified that you wanted to do it?
Reverse a refund. Alex, do you know what that means?
I don't think it's supported through NDC.
It's not supported. Okay.
No.
Okay. Let's see. So one of the other questions that came through a little earlier was, yeah, I went in and I voided a transaction, but then it showed refunded. Is that a new NDC feature that things are all refunded now and not truly voided?
If you're inside the void window, it should show as voided, but I guess the clarifying question would be, where are you seeing refund? Was it in that pop-up screen, the IAR report? Because the flow should be what I showed you, that if you're in the void window, the message that pops up says void. And as Cassie showed, when you go to the IAR, it should show as a void.
Okay, thank you. And when you refund, is the booking auto canceled also? Assuming that is true, the whole transaction is wiped out, but.
Yes. I believe if I go back to the message, sorry, let me just go back and show. I can get that message to come up. NDC order was so it says here, all tickets and NDC elements will be canceled. So yeah, I mean, yes, I believe everything is eliminated.
Okay. Everything's eliminated in a refund. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Everything for the order, not the rest of the PNR, right? The rest of the PNR still exists. That has nothing to do with NDC.
Okay, thank you. And what about, there has been a request for a demo of a partial refund. I don't believe we are addressing that in this particular demo, are we?
No, not today.
Not today. All right. Let's see, there are a couple more. 1 second. Is there any way to reverse a void? I'm feeling that NDC really is more, you're making the transaction and you're not able to change that process once you've done it. You have to go back in and actually, reinitiate the message to sell. Is that correct? Correct.
And it's really different in NDC because we're still talking about TKTT, EMDs, and void, but you have to know that this is a transition phase because the airline are willing to go a step further, and the order management system I talked about will be their system. Everything will be based on that order management system, and we will not talk about PNRs, documents anymore in future. So it's just translating, let's say, the functional use case. When you cancel something, you had an order, and the product is represented through an order item, and this order item is just canceled, disappeared from the order. So there is nothing you can do back anymore.
Okay, thank you. And how fast do we see the void status in IAR? Cass, can you talk to that one?
Yeah, so I think that depends on exactly the timing of that. So typically, a lot of times these are maybe same day voids. So the transaction and the void would probably load on the same day in the same file. But I think that the timing of that can be dependent on exactly when that void occurred. But that process is typically going to be very similar to what you're used to seeing in the GDS with IAR. So I think there are examples like if, I don't know if that applies, and Paige, you probably could talk to it a little bit better, but like the automated refunds, if it's like out of that, you know, void window or how that works, not out of the void window, but received after like midnight, and that gets loaded at a different time. So I think it depends on the timing of exactly when that transaction's reported to ARC. And that can vary by airline, just depending on their setup. But I think for Amadeus customers, airlines that are utilizing this platform, I think you would see those next day in IAR, the sale and the void.
Totally agree. Thank you. Thank you. And there's a little question here about taxes and the refund. Will refunds, a refund request actually refund all the taxes, or will it be like today where there's certain taxes that aren't refunded? Or is that, again, up to the airline?
Normally, same rules as today applies, meaning, once again, it depends. The airline in NDC has still the capacity to build the offer based on what they currently file in ATP Co, okay? But they can do it differently as well. Normally, regarding taxes, the tax that applies to a fare should follow the same rules, whatever the way the airline builds the offer. So if a tax is refundable, it should be refunded. But once again, it's built this refund amount whenever you refund a product, so an order item in NDC, this refund amount that is based on the part of the fare that has to be refunded plus the different taxes that has to be refunded is built by the airline and given back to the aggregator to be presented to you. So it really depends on the way the airline does the process.
Understood. Thank you. Does Amadeus offer the ability to, when you have multiple people in a PNR, if you need to maybe, you know, one person can't go on the trip, can you remove one person, or is that not possible in the platform?
Split PNR is coming in Q4 of this year. So we will support that in fourth quarter.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go ahead and keep moving, please.
But before we go on, I want to go back to a previous question. I may have misunderstood the question. I just want to clarify. So in terms of canceling a ticket and then retaining the ticket with credit for future use, yes, that is an airline by airline decision whether they support that. Amadeus will support retaining that credit and using it in the future in the July-August timeframe. But again, it's airline by airline decision whether they will allow that.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Let me show exchange with additional collection. So again, we are back to Selling Platform Connect, and we are going to look at retrieving the booking. So you'll see here, once again, we have the purple NDC indicator saying, hey, these are NDC flights. Again, the reminder in yellow, you have to use GUI. You can click show in graphic mode here. We see now all of the segments that are part of this trip, and we're going to click exchange. We're going to choose to change the outbound. So we're going to change the outbound to June 10th, keep cabin class the same, and search for new flights. Now remember, even though in Amadeus we offer a way for you to shop Edifact content and NDC content in an integrated fashion, so in the original search you would do, you can see legacy Edifact content intermixed with NDC content, so you pick exactly the right thing for your traveler. In this case, we're exchanging. And as there was a question earlier, because this was an original NDC booking, you can only change it to NDC. So that's why in these options to make the change to June 10th, you only see options that have the NDC tag, because we're original bookings NDC, any change now has to only be in NDC. So the agent now for each option for the exchange, they see the price difference and they see the penalty, they see the flight details. Once they find the one, oh, you can click the full fare conditions if you want to see the fare conditions. Then you pick which one you want. You'll see then the breakdown, original price, new price, penalty, right? It's summarized on the left, but you see the details to the right. Once you choose form of payment and click reissue, reissue is done. And if we expand this, you'll see that the outbound is now updated to leaving on June 10th. And if we flip back to Cryptic command page, you'll see, yep, that segment's now been updated as well to show that the outbound is June 10th. So that is how simple it is to do an exchange in Amadeus for a travel agent for NDC content. All right, Cassie?
Great. So the stainless screen, we're tired of seeing it. That exchange is highlighted in there in the list. So you can see this is the new document in the top left that that highlighted ticket number. And then you've got the total amount, again, matching what we saw in the previous screen through the Amadeus platform. And then in the bottom, you can see that form of payment type was the original document for that 1725.75. Great, and you can go to next screen. All right, so then this is going to be our exchange support screen. This is all of the details of that old document. So you can see the ticket number, the coupons, old fare, old total, and then you can also see the penalty amount of $50. And then the final screen is going to be the exchange summary. So here you'll see the new and old document totals, which is resulting in a $49 ad collect, plus the penalty of $50, which is $99, and then shows the form of payment here as cash. And I think we received a question earlier. So Paige, you can mark this, I'll just address it. And then Amadeus, if you have anything to add, certainly do. But for the cash transactions like this, I think we had a question that was what happens for examples of cash. So again, this follows kind of what you'd expect with the GDS ticket. So ARC will net the amount. So any cash transactions, that money gets pulled and sent to the airline. And just so everyone knows, that applies to commission as well. So the same process that we do if commission is included as part of a ticket or the airline allows the agent to add commission in IAR, we would net that out at the end of the week, just like we do. And that would just be a part of your net disbursement or pull from your bank account as part. That would include your GDS transactions, your NDC transactions. We net everything at the end of the week. So that cash situation applies to NDC just as it does today for GDS.
Perfect, thank you, Cassie. One of the questions that we've had here is, what if I just need to change the form of payment? I've issued my transaction and I issued it in a credit card, maybe that was the wrong credit card. How do I make that change within my transaction?
I'm sorry, but it doesn't exist today.
Okay.
I mean, you issued your document with a certain form of payment. This is the contract that has been established. There is no way, even today in EDIFACT, to change that form of payment to be reflected on the ticket.
Okay, so even if you wanted to go credit card to cash or whatever, there is no way to change the form of payment. You truly have to cancel the transaction and start again? Okay.
Correct. So to come back to what Jay said earlier, it really depends on the way the aggregator implements NDC. With the travel platform, there is a way for travel agents to start to create the offer, to get the offer, to create the order, and to have a certain time to commit to pay. And obviously you can start saying by building the offer saying, I'm intended to pay in credit card. Fine, you will be resulting with the offer corresponding to fares corresponding to credit cards, as well as the potential surcharge that applies to it. But still, you didn't commit to pay, so you can still change your mind and at some point say, oh no, by the way, I want to change. I intend to pay in cash. So you may have a different price offered by the airline because it can affect, actually, the method of payment can affect the final price. But once you commit to pay, this is part of your contract. So there is no way in changing that.
Perfect.
You can use a different form of payment when you do the exchange, but as Alex said, you can't go back and change the original form of payment. Also remember, at NDC, the airlines are doing ticketing. When you're ready to ticket, you're actually sending a command to the airline that says, here's my payment information, please issue the ticket. And they are processing payment, and it's done, and that's over.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there any way to compare various airlines and the rules around their particular functions within the aggregation tool?
So maybe let me take it two different ways. At a high level, if we're thinking about what capabilities in NDC is each airline supporting and how are they different, that you can get to on Amadeus Service Hub. We have a summary page that at a high level shows different functionalities supported by airline around shopping, around changes before ticketing, changes after ticketing, reporting, etc. We also provide link to a detailed Excel spreadsheet that really gets down to the minutia. That's where you'll find out that some airlines only support up to 2 destinations in search for NDC. Others support up to 6. Some airlines have a limit on how many exchanges of an exchange you can do. Others do not. So that Excel spreadsheet will really get down into the minutia. So that's just thinking across NDC implementation by airline that we make available to you. When you're getting into maybe shopping in the travel platform as an agent, that is really where you would have to then look at the fare rules coming back with each offer and then try and compare and contrast to see how they differ. Alex, I don't know anything else to add into how to compare them at shopping time.
Yep, perfect.
Great. Is there a way, is there any kind of a modification within the NDC order process? Is there a way, like if I need to modify a date of birth or the name that I typed maybe incorrectly, is there a way to modify, or does it again gotta get
each airline decides what they're going to allow? So airlines are starting to think about name correct, well, not starting, but in NDC for sure, there's the concept of a name correction where each airline might say, yeah, we'll allow a name correction. You can change up to 3 characters, which may be different from a name change. And so each airline will have rules about what they support, and then if they support something like a name correction without any kind of fee or requiring any process, they may say what the limit is to the number of characters that can be changed for it to still only be a correction versus being a name change.
Okay, thank you. Please.
And sorry, I was gonna say, and then there are, if we talk about date of birth and or gender, we're implementing support for those in SSR docs in the coming quarters. But again, I think it's important that you have to make sure what each individual airline is going to allow or support in those categories.
Thank you. Lots of questions about managing schedule changes. Is there a way to do that within the Amadeus product?
Yeah, so the great news is that in Amadeus, an NDC booking is still a confirmed segment. It's an HK segment. Amadeus is driving synchronization of that NDC order that you see either in command page or in graphical. We're driving synchronization with the airline order in the airline IT system. If there is an involuntary change, you still get the change notification in the same queue in Amadeus that you do for Edifact, just a different queue category. Now, after that happens, there can be different ways of managing involuntary change per airline. In some cases, the involuntary change does not require acceptance by the agency. Acceptance is just assumed by the airline. In other cases, you do have to accept the involuntary change. If you need now to, if you don't accept the involuntary change and you want to change to something else, some airlines will require a waiver code, others will not. So you'll need to look for each airline process. We are just about to launch support for the involuntary change for American where you don't accept it and you have to use a waiver code. So I'm thinking probably August, that would be ready. But again, airline by airline, you have to understand whether they require acceptance of involuntary change or not. And then if you're not going to accept involuntary change, do they require a waiver code? And as I said, for American, which does, we will support that in the coming months.
Great, thank you so much.
But again, notification works exactly the same. It's just a different queue category in that same queue.
Okay, great.
Hey, Paige.
Yes.
It looks like one question very specific to the exchange transaction we just went through, so I don't know if it makes sense to.
Yeah, please, let's do it.
That one. So it said on the exchange transaction, the new taxes were lower, correct? How was that accounted for? So I don't know if you have the ability to go back, Jay, and maybe speak to that a little bit.
I was going to see if they were summarized here, but let me go back to here and see if I can get, oh yeah, taxes are lower. Okay, so the question, Cassie, was,
I guess, how is that accounted for? And again, we can maybe do the math here. But I assume that that is just included in the difference. So whatever it was, 49.
Yep, it's $49 exactly. If you do 1725.75, 1774.75, that's your $49.
So yeah, there was $1 difference in the taxes, and then yeah, whatever that $50.
Yep.
Well, yeah, when there is a price.
The total, yeah.
Yep. The fare is $50 more. The taxes are $1 less, so it's $49.
And was there a penalty then in that one? Yeah.
Yeah, there was for $50. Sorry, if I go back.
Oh. Okay.
Penalty 50, penalty 50.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Let's go ahead and keep moving. We do have many more questions, but I want to be sure we can get through the content, and then we can always come back.
Okay. I'm going to show here an exchange that has residual value. However, this is an exchange with residual value where that value is lost. And so it's important to see how that's represented on your IAR report. So from a process perspective, this is going to work just like the example we just saw where there was add collect. Once again, we're looking at this booking in command page. We're going to flip over to graphic because it's NDC. We have to work in graphic for NDC. We're going to exchange that Memphis to Doha flight. And in this case, instead of changing the outbound date, we're going to change the outbound airport. So guess what? Somehow we're now in New York City and we're going to leave from there. In this case, when the new flights come back, you'll see that the price difference is negative. So obviously there's going to be residual value. Now this demo was done in our test system and there was an issue in the test system. So don't try and match this price difference to the next screen. Just focus on the process. You will see a negative price difference. You'll still see penalty information if it exists here. But on the next screen, we'll see the breakdown. Again, don't worry about the matching. It was a test system issue. So again, I select the fare and I'm going to see once again the breakdown. So you'll see the new price is cheaper. So there is residual value. But as I said, in this instance for this airline, residual value is not kept, it's lost. Same process as before. I picked my new flights, I saw the breakdown, I go ahead and do reissue, and then I can go back to command page and see, yep, I'm leaving from JFK now instead of Memphis. But as I said, that value is lost, not stored. So let's go to Cassie on how that's reflected in IAR.
Great. So again, this is basic here. We've got the financial details screen. You can see in the top right corner, the airline direct is selected. We did get a question about how to distinguish without having to click into each ticket. So when we get to the end, I can pull up our test environment of IAR, and I can show you guys a couple ways of how you can distinguish without having to click into the ticket. There are a couple ways. So you can see here, this is a new document, had all that information. The exchange support screen here is going to show you the old document information, taxes. fare calculation, all the rules down there at the bottom. And then the exchange summary is going to show you that there was a $1,068.50 difference. And because of that lost residual value, that was the penalty amount for that ticket, resulting in no adjustment. And then you'll see a form of payment at the bottom there as even. So that is represented in IER, how that was a exchange to a lower fare, but the lost residual value canceled that out, resulting in an even.
I see the question popped up. Whether or not residual value exists is an airline by airline determination. So it's not no more residual value for clients at all. It's for certain airlines, residual value is not supported / allowed. For others, it is.
Yep, agreed. And with the US, I know it's a little different than some BSPs too. So that is also an airline decision whether that residual value gets issued on an EMD and can be used for future use, or whether that exchange will just include the refund of that amount and whether that would go back on that original form of payment. So that's also an airline by airline decision as well.
Yep. All right, before I turn it over to Cassie, so just some useful links. On the ARC Direct Connect website, there's information on the airlines currently participating. I've talked multiple times about the Amadeus Service Hub. There is a lot of information about NDC. There's a page that talks about the differences between EDIFACT and NDC. There's access to our learning universe that has e-learning content and material in 12 languages. There's a live travel community. There's that information on functionality by airlines at a high level, but also at a detailed level. Lots of great information for you there on the Amadeus Service Hub. Okay, let me now turn over to Cassie.
Okay. And Cassie, while you're loading UAT, if you're okay if I run through a couple more questions. Once a booking is made, and I'm assuming that means the ticket's been issued, how do I add the frequent flyer number? Maybe we didn't do that in the beginning. Is that something I have to call the airline for? And will it be reflected then in SSR remarks, or is there a different process?
I'm checking. We do not yet, we as Amadeus as an aggregator, do not yet support adding it after booking has been made. It is in our roadmap, so we will be delivering that. But for us at this time, you need to have that frequent flyer number in the booking flow.
Okay, thank you. And are all SSR fields kind of in that same vein that they're not quite ready yet, or are there some that are available? Are you able to use that in some way?
There are some available today. That Excel, so on the Service Hub, where we do the detailed functionality by carrier, I'm pretty sure we have detailed information on the SSRs and their current status of support.
Perfect, thank you. So a question that came in as, more of an aha kind of moment, I think, is the airline is issuing tickets here, and the agent is truly more of a, well, in this particular person's words, a third party.
Well, I'll go back to something that Alex said, which is in NDC, agents are a travel seller, right? You sell the travel, but you're right. In NDC, the airline is issuing the ticket. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so if an airline, I think one of the things you talked about is that some airlines are providing waivers. I think maybe your example was American, for not accepting that particular schedule change. I'm not sure if that was American or not, but if the airline provides this waiver for a change fee, maybe for a voluntary change or for whatever reason, how is that waiver applied in the exchange?
So in the acceptance testing I've seen in our system, when you get the summary of the ad collect for the exchange, there's a box to enter the waiver code. It says waiver code, and you enter it there, and then that's applied. So that's what I saw in terms of the solution that we've had in acceptance testing.
Okay. One more question, Cassie, if I think you're pretty close, right?
Yeah, no, I'm ready. I'm just waiting on it.
Okay. If a credit card would decline, and then I want to add a new credit card, is there an option, and will the old credit card number just automatically disappear from that PNR?
I can take that one. So it's true that you have to understand what you call the PNR. So what we see in a cryptic mode, which is a representation of what you know today from the PNR, okay? And we try to get the information, or to display the information coming from the order of the airline, okay? So we are mapping those elements. So in the case you commit to pay an order and you enter the credit card for which there is a problem during the authorization process, which is once again triggered on the airline side, the airline with the NDC messages will reply back saying, okay, for that order, there is an issue with the payment. And actually, through the travel platform, yes, you will see there is an error message. Please enter a new credit card.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, one more, and then I'm sorry, Cass, one more. And I think, Jay, you may have talked to this a little bit. I just want to be sure we answered the question fully. If there's something that doesn't come through all the way to ARC correctly for whatever reason, which we have today that happens specifically in the GDS world, and the agent has to go and look at that PNR, do they look that up in the GUI, or can you look it up in cryptic?
You can look it up in cryptic.
Okay.
Yep. You saw in the examples I showed that we were retrieving in some cases we retrieved the PNR in cryptic, and you could see the flight segments that were NDC represented in the PNR.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I will mitigate that with the fact that in NDC, yes, there is a PNR on the travel seller side, so the one that you see. But remember that with NDC, the airline has its own PNR corresponding to his order. So both are kept in sync regarding the NDC messages and the travel platform. But yes, you can access only your PNR, which is in sync with the airline one. And because in NDC, the airline is doing everything, there may be something wrong in the airline system when delivering or generating the reporting file to our ARC. So that's why it's more complicated in NDC, because yes, there are new intermediaries or new processes, and you don't have access to the same, let's say, information as you used to.
Thank you. Okay, Cassie, let's go ahead. We have some more, but let's.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Alrighty, so we are here in UAT IAR, and I've already clicked into one of the PEDs here. So I just clicked in to one, and I wanted to address one of the first questions, which was about distinguishing the ability to distinguish between GDS and NDC. So the first here, you can see you have system provider dropdown. So this is a very useful tool. This will allow you to select your GDS all transactions. You can choose a specific GDS or airline NDC carrier, or you can select airline direct all. So if you wanted to see what your NDC transactions were, you can click your airline direct, and that would, this is probably not going to filter anything out because these are all NDC. So you could click that and it would filter out all of your GDS transactions. Now, keep in mind, there is one sort of unique case to this, which is Farelogix or Acelia. So the system provider code 9413, for those that are utilizing Farelogix or Acelia, I should say, and sorry, I don't know who has control of my screen here, but so this is these are also, at least from what we hear from Acelia, all the transactions that we receive on Acelia's file are NDC tickets. So there's just a little bit of a unique way that they come to ARC, so it looks more like a GDS, and they send multiple airlines within that file, very similar to GDSs. So they fall into sort of this different category. But if you are looking for NDC transactions and you're not seeing them here in Airline Direct All, you may select to filter on Farelogix and see if those show there. So that's one way, utilizing this system provider drop-down menu. You can also look at the document number. So unfortunately, I don't have any like fake GDS tickets loaded here, but let's say for an example, a GDS ticket document number started with 777. You would see those here in the list, and the Direct Connect document numbers will look vastly different from those that are GDS. So you can also take a look there at the document number. I believe in one of our previous webinars, we also included a link to, oh, sorry, there's something popping up on my screen here. So I believe, sent a copy of the IAH, which is the Industry Agents Handbook, and that includes a list of the ARC neutral stock numbers. So those would be the tickets that are issued through the GDS. We are assigning those out to each individual GDS. So anything outside of that would be the airline stock ranges, which are what NDC tickets are issued on. Again, the only exception to that is Farelogix and Acelia, so please keep that in mind. All right, and then as I said, once you click into the ticket, you can see here Airline Direct would be selected and in that checkbox as well. All right,
Okay,
any other questions?
I'm looking for any questions for the about IAR here today coming through. Just looking. Well, here's one I think you can probably answer. Some airlines are saying that 2 credit cards can be used to pay for a ticket, and how is that reflected in IAR? Would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, I can try, and then Paige, you might have a better update. And those that are close to me know I have a puppy that's kind of going a little crazy in the background, so apologies if there's any background noise. But yes, multiple forms of payment unfortunately are not supported in ARC. So those tickets, I think it's a little unique in how that would work. I think either the second form of payment would just drop, and I think Amadeus, Alex or Jay can speak to whether that's truly allowed in the platform, but ARC does not support yet multiple forms of payment. So unfortunately, we cannot have 2 credit cards on one transaction. That is something we are working on in our modernization. So we are working on that and hope to have that delivered and available soon-ish. But that unfortunately is not something we support yet. Paige, feel free to add to that or Amadeus.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. We can't take that today. I think everyone on the phone knows that you have to issue an MCO or an EMD for the first form of payment, and you have to make the exchange for that form of payment using that EMD or MCO, and then do an add collect for the remaining amount and the different type of transaction type you'd like to use, or the payment type that you'd like to use. So that is still the process within ARC today. As we onboard airlines within our NDC ARC Direct Connect program, we do reiterate that that is still the process with ARC today. And as Cassie says, multiple forms of payment is definitely something that we are getting ready to start working forward on, but it will be a while before we are able to deliver that. You know, ARC has work to do, the airlines have work to do. I think the GDS aggregators have work to do. So it's not an easy transformation there, but we are understanding it is necessary, and we are looking to implement.
Yeah, it's my understanding that no airlines yet support multiple forms of payment for one NDC order. So that's kind of the dependent step, is that we start to understand which, you know, how they're going to implement that, so that Amadeus as an aggregator and ARC can figure out what we need to do to support what they're implementing.
Terrific. Thank you. Okay, so I think there was a question about commission and how that can be added into the NDC transaction actually in the aggregation tool. Again, commission is one of those airline decisions that is to be made, but let me ask one of the Amadeus team if they could talk to that, please.
Sure. So what differs in terms of commission process between the GDS and NDC is that with NDC, once again, the airline knows who you are as a travel seller and will build the best offer for you, commission included. And with NDC, because the airline is really in charge of handling everything, there is no more this capability for the travel seller to manipulate the fare, the commission, exam taxes. The airline is really doing everything on your behalf. So even in the NDC messages, with this principle, there is no way for, let's say, a travel seller to input a commission to an existing offer of the airline to be transformed into an order. So it's really based on who you are. The airline will build the best offer for you, commission included. The airline will create the corresponding order with the order item, so your product, will issue the documents behind the scene accordingly, commission included, and will report those transactions to ARC in the SPERF, commission included.
Perfect, thank you.
Just to add to that, we will show the commission amount as returned by the airline in the PNR and in our Amadeus interface record file. That should be delivered next quarter, so third quarter of this year, where you'll see those as separate lines in the PNR and the Amadeus AIR based on what Alex just described, that the airline has said what it is in the NDC order.
And I'm gonna. Okay. Go ahead.
To complete the flow, remember that after that transaction has been uploaded on IAR, depending on what the airline chose, as a travel agent, you can have the capability to modify certain value, like the commission for NDC sales.
Yep, you took the words right out of my mouth, Alex. I was gonna speak. No, you're fine. I was gonna speak a little bit to that too, Paige. I don't know if we have any specific questions, but I think I did see a few related. I know we talked about labor codes earlier. We are now talking about commission. So I'll just take a moment to chat about the kind of the different available options to an airline when they're determining this program. So the first option is that they can allow agents to have the full capabilities they have today for your GDS transactions. So allowing an agent to add any of those 5 fields, which are commission, waiver code, tour code, ticket designator, and certificate. So those 5 fields that are available for all your GDS tickets, they do have the ability to allow all of those. They also may allow you to do some error correction on a ticket. So if any part of that ticket is causing an error, so if you're familiar with IAR, when it comes in, you would see that status E. You can click into that and it would open up the field that has that error. Some airlines are allowing agents to make those appropriate changes so that it can finish its way through settlement. Other airlines are electing to not allow those changes. So those are 2 pieces, and then the third is adding a manual ticket into your sales report in IAR. I think there was a question on that as well earlier. So that is possible. It's just depending on the airline's configuration. And I think I can show you here, if maybe Paige, or you could confirm that you can see the Direct Connect website now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is our Direct Connect website on arccorp.com, and you can find a lot of valuable information on the page, but one of the things that you can do at the top here is click on Partners, and that's going to take you a little further down on the screen, and you'll see all of the airlines that are currently connected through our NDC. And if you open one of these up, so I will do an example of an Amadeus airline. So Here you can see the configuration for that airline. And this again is really specific to what they're allowing kind of in ARC through ARC reporting and in IAR. So keep that in mind when you're utilizing this website. You can see what file type they're sending. You can see the transactions that they're reporting to ARC, the payments that they're reporting to ARC. And then over on the right-hand side, these are all of those 3 IAR functionalities I just discussed. So if they do not want to allow agents to correct errors, then it would be returned to the airline and they would have to make that correction and resubmit that transaction. So just a note on that, you may not see those transactions in your sales report until a couple of days later. And then IAR modifications, they're allowing all. So in this case, you would be able to add commission to your ticket manually in IAR as part of that ticket. So if commission is not added up front, some airlines, and I will say I think a lot of the airlines that are partnering through Amadeus are allowing modifications. So that's good news, but not all. You can certainly go to the website to see what functionalities you as the agent in IAR will have per airline.
Great, Cassie. Thank you so much. I'm having a couple questions here, and I want to be sure that we are really addressing this particular thing, and that is about will the airline assume all responsibility for the tickets that are being issued via NDC because they are the ones issuing the tickets? That would be including, you know, credit card chargebacks, any fraud, any issues with fare, any of those kinds of things. And to be honest, here's the thing. Agents, or now travel sellers from Alex's previous comment, really need to understand when you enter into an agreement with an airline offering an NDC content, what your responsibilities are, as well as what their responsibilities are. Many times it appears, from my experience at least, is that the people necessarily having some of the conversations with the airlines are not from the entire travel seller organization. And so maybe they haven't considered a particular thing like a debit memo, a chargeback, things like that. So it's very important that those conversations that you're talking within your own organization, as well as with the airline, about who has responsibility for these things. It's my understanding that this very much varies by airline, and that please don't take the approach of, well, if it's NDC, then I have no liability for any issues that come up, because that isn't necessarily true. Just a point to make there that you really want to take control of that conversation and understand what your responsibilities are, as well as the airlines. Any comments there from you all?
Yeah. As a travel seller, you need to ensure that the information you provide to the NDC airline is the correct one. Because, for instance, you may have cases where you collect information for your passenger and you get this corresponding offer, but in the end, at the airport, because I don't know, the age was wrongly collected and the wrong fare applied, you may still end up in a situation where you will receive ADM because you provide the wrong information regarding travelers, for instance, for an NDC offer. But otherwise, it's true that through the NDC flow, we say that the responsibility really shifts from the GDS, but also the travel agents, to the airline, because the airline, yes, you mentioned the chargeback, but with NDC, the airline will tell you, okay, you want to pay with a credit card, but if it's the case, I'm requiring a 3DS. So you need, through the aggregator and your implementation as well, to be able, for instance, to have this additional feature, so a strong customer authentication if you want 3DS, but once it's done and it's passed to the airline, whatever happens with that card transaction is under the responsibility of the airline, because you did everything well. So it can be case by case, but it's true that the airline handles everything with NDC.
Thank you so much, Alex. It's very true. I want to also let you know that we did put the link for the website that Cassie was just showing into the chat, so everyone should be able to get that and be able to use that. We will also include it in the email when we send out the link for the. I'll ask Judy to put it in when she sends out the actual webinar to you all.
And I think it was on the last slide of the presentation as well, Paige, on that helpful links of both ARC and Amadeus. I think it was listed there as well.
Yep, great. Thank you. I didn't realize. Okay, so here's an unusual question. I think everyone will laugh a little bit, but the question was, how do you issue an MCO with an NDC transaction? Who would like to talk to that?
I can. Remember that all the documents that are issued in NDC relies on the airline system. So from a travel seller, you will connect to an aggregator to ask for a service, okay? As an aggregator, we will send the NDC message to the airline system. And the way the airline system, let's say, performs or triggers really the contract establishment and issues related document could be TKTT, could be MCO, relies on the airline side. So you don't ask to issue an MCO, you ask for a service. And you will be given back the information coming from the airline with a document number, whether it's a TKTT, an EMD, or an MCO.
Perfect, thank you so much. All right, we have about 9 minutes left. Let me first ask if there's anything else that our panelists would like to add to the conversation. I have some more questions, so we can definitely go through those, but wanted to give you the opportunity.
Maybe a teaser for a further session. No, because we are going there gradually, and hopefully you can realize that with NDC it's called simplify the business, but it's not, and there are a lot of complexity in the entire flow. So we started with something, let's say, easy, and regarding I'm still coming back to the end flow with the end-to-end flow with the reporting and everything. We have a new case as well to talk with you and to present you, which in which you will see that you may have impact actually, especially for the exchange, and yeah, especially for the exchange. So yeah, hopefully you can digest that, and probably in the coming months you will hear about something new from us, NARC as well.
Yeah, I agree. And there are things that, you know, some of the airlines are newer to this process than others also. And so there is a bit of learning on their end as well. And when, you know, if there's a question that you have with an airline, maybe you don't, whatever they've returned is not something that maybe your company should have, or they haven't given you all of the maybe contract terms that you normally agree to, you're going to need to definitely contact that airline, because the aggregator can only display what the airline sends. And so that would definitely be a conversation with the airline about, you know, what they are returning to you. I don't want to have anyone think that the aggregator is manipulating whatever that might be, because that is definitely coming directly from the airline.
I was going to add one other comment. I know we
Please.
focused a lot on these NDC processes. I just want everybody to remember, in the US market, only 2 of the 4 major airlines are currently implementing NDC. So as you think about your agency processes and accounting and reporting and traveler servicing, you need to remember that you're in a hybrid world now where you need to continue and maintain your legacy processes around EDIFACT, most specifically for Delta, and if you're an agency that has access to Southwest in the GDS for Southwest, while starting to accommodate NDC content from United and American. So just remember, it's not everything that you need or your customers need is in NDC today or will be in there by the end of the year. We're in this world of, how do I operate efficiently and service my travelers efficiently, knowing that I'm going to have some content booked in Edifact. That's certainly the case for Delta and Southwest. And then some content that's booked in NDC, which is some content for United and American. So I just want to make sure everybody remembers that angle here.
Oh, I think you're on mute, maybe.
Sorry about that. There are still lots of questions out there. One of them I think that is pretty pertinent is to saying that in the UAT, we are seeing that the United's NDC transactions are showing an XX in the form of payment in IAR. And why is that? Because that is an unusual thing to see. So could you talk to that, Cassie?
Absolutely. So I don't have an example loaded here. So, and I think maybe a majority, again, this is also our test environment, so that could be why, but I do think a majority of the airlines that are coming through Amadeus are having ARC do the credit billing. If ARC is not doing the credit billing, so initiating those, the billing of those credit card transactions, then there is just a limitation in our system that, you know, for GDS, ARC does most of the billing. There are a couple exceptions to that, but for the most part, ARC is doing the billing. So all of that form of payment information is an IAR. For NDC, the airlines get a choice whether they want to initiate their own credit billing or if they want ARC to continue to do the credit billing as we do today for GDS transactions. If we are not doing the billing, there's just a limitation in our system that we have to kind of force this ticket in without that payment information so that that transaction does not get billed. So that, if you see XX as the payment type here, or sorry, here, that is because the airline has initiated their own credit billing. And unfortunately, there's no way for us to display that information in IAR today. That is something we are also working on, as we talked about with multiple forms of payment. We are working on adding that functionality to hopefully just be able to load those transactions in to IAR with the payment information that's being sent, but without doing the billing. But today, if you see an XX form of payment, and then when you click further into the ticket, you can see that it says XXCC billing, so, or airline billing, something along those lines. That is indicating that the airline is doing their own credit billing, ARC is not, and that's just a limitation in our system. We cannot just bypass that or pass that through our system as it is today. So just know that that is for credit transactions through NDC for any airline that's doing their own credit billing.
Cassie, is that directly related to whether the airline issues NDC on neutral stock or airline stock, or is it a separate issue?
Unrelated, Jay, good question. But so for any tickets issued on neutral stock for NDC, the only example of that today is going to be Farelogix. So again, as I talked about here, this says Farelogix. I think it's maybe updated in our production system now to reflect Acelia. But this is the only NDC tickets that we have issued on neutral stock, and all of those tickets will have the form of payment information because ARC is doing the billing for those transactions. So this would only apply to airlines that are fall into this category, that are using airline stock and then doing their own credit billing.
Okay.
So just know, if you see that XX form of payment, it's not unusual. You can expect to continue to see that, though that is an item on our backlog, so that the agents can see obviously that form of payment that was submitted and reported.
Thank you so much. I think, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add one other item. The main reason for this is there are also airlines, since they're doing their own credit billing for the sake of PCI, they are not sending the information to ARC. They're sending it maybe masked, or they could even be sending like a tokenized a token for that form of payment. So in the future, just keep in mind, even when we make that change, it's also possible that that form of payment information may not look like you'd expect it, because we're not doing the billing. We don't have to validate that information. So that's another reason that doesn't get loaded in, because it's not what you might normally see. All right, I'll turn it over to you, Paige. I know it's just about 11.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate our panelists today, Jay, Alexandra, and Cassie, for providing such great insight and great examples so that we could really try to explain your process. You could share your product with us. I think the audience has found it very helpful. We've had lots of questions. We haven't gotten to all of them, but I do want to let you know that we will get that question list out and answered for you as well. Can I turn it over back to Judy?
Thank you, Paige, so much. And I can thank you, the whole ARC team, Cassie, Phil, Shelley, that are behind the scenes that have helped answer some of the questions. So thank you to all of them. And most importantly, thanks to the Amadeus team as well, Jay and Alex. So thank you all so very much for taking the time to be with us, present this very very important topic that keeps evolving. So thank you, everyone. And thanks so much for all of you that have tuned in today. Look for more information to come. We will send out a follow-up email that will have the recording. I know I've gotten some emails in regards to that. Don't worry, this is recorded. And also, you can either copy that link that's in the chat that Cassie had up on the screen, or that will also be included in the email that we send out. And always feel free to reach out with any questions. Again, this is a lot of information that has been shared here today, and we want to, again, keep you informed and involved. So don't hesitate, just reach out. Thanks again, everyone that's attended and called in, and thank you all again, the Amadeus and the ARC team. And look for more webinars to come in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye, thanks.